Welcome to NCFM, Women Against False Accusations. This podcast shares truth about false accusations of sexual assault and abuse, revealing just how easy it is for the men in our lives to be falsely accused. You will hear true, heartbreaking, and sometimes shocking stories from the mothers, sisters, wives, friends, and advocates of men living the trauma of a society that has moved away from presumption of innocence. We invite you to join us as we take a stand for truth.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jerry Cox. I happen to be president of the National Coalition for Men. We've been around for about 45 years. And one of the things I always wanted to do was to have a means where people could share their stories about how they were impacted by a loved one being falsely accused of God only knows what. Because the false allegations seem to come rapidly about anything. Sexual assault, he touched me wrong. He said something that I didn't like, whatever the case may be, but the consequences have devastating impacts on people other than the person falsely accused. As a consequence, we're thankful to have Lori Diebold heading up an organization, NCFM Women About False Allegations, and we're sharing stories from loved ones to find out what happened. And the stories are harrowing, to say the least. I'm going to turn it over to Lori and let Lori introduce you to the next person that we're going to be able to hear the story from. And thank you, everybody involved here, for doing what you do. Lori, it's all yours.
Thank you, Harry. And as Harry said, I'm Lori Diebold, and I'm heading up the NCFM Women Against False Accusations group. And I met Krystal a while ago, and her fiance's story is certainly horrific and goes far beyond those false accusations and what the county is doing now. But Krystal, I'd like to open this up to you and have you share your story with us, please.
Thank you, Lori and Harry. My fiance, Jerry, is one of the most amazing men you'll ever meet. Really quick on my background, just really quick. I came from a 10-year abusive relationship. And so to meet somebody like Jerry is just refreshing. And by all means, be a man that deserves to have a family and everything that he wanted in life before this happened, because he was getting to that point in his life that he was ready for a family and to build a new house and have kids. And he met a girl online, and whether it was a setup or not, they met outside of the ranch first, because this comes kind of important. She later tells them that she first came to the ranch, but they had met before. And she said when she came to the ranch that she was kidnapped for 3 days and basically tortured because he got 18 felonies. And I'm talking felonies that he didn't even know what they were until he was in the courtroom. And it was almost like an exaggeration from his county. They did nothing to, it was believe the woman. It was not believe the evidence, because he had her cell phone records, which they didn't check until later, and witnesses as well. And bless his heart, he was just coming home. He told her to leave. He was having guests come stay at his cabin. He had asked her to leave. Quite sternly, she was out smoking a cigarette and just disrespecting the whole place. She left dirty stuff everywhere. And I guess like at a date a couple days before that, she was telling a bunch of people at the party that she had been raped before. And they were kind of like, why is she talking about this at a wedding? It was like a wedding date. And that kind of sent him some red flags. So this is all before his stuff. So he's asked her to leave, and he went to, after work, took the guy that was staying there, his friend, and they went and had burgers, and he was driving back and he got pulled over, and they took him in, and they immediate, or they didn't take him in. They took her in, they interviewed her. They didn't check her cell phone. They didn't do anything. I mean, they literally were out to get him. They didn't listen to the witnesses, nothing, until she put a restraining order. Luckily, she was lazy, and she had put a restraining order on him in another county, San Luis Obispo County. And I went to court and I talked with her mother the whole time. This 4 hours she was playing with my son, you know, keeping him company. I mean, these women were not acting like they were terrified of Jerry. She was asking me, how was it at the ranch, all this stuff. And we were starting to have a beautiful life at the ranch. And then all of a sudden this was going on before they used his mugshot, and the same judge in this small county, and they used it for his rape case. His mugshot and stuff that wasn't even true. Like, I'm going to say this, his friend, he wasn't even there. He was visiting his mother in Arizona. His friend had like a thing of weed, and the guy was trying to tell him, this is mine. This is not Jerry's. They still put Jerry's face by it in the mugshot with like a bunch of guns and Glocks. He's like, you would have thought I was like I mean, they set him up to make him look bad to the judge in the case for the receivership. Because then they had put a receivership on his cabin. And I don't know how I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but how they cross-examined that with the warrant, they used that warrant to go to they were saying he was aggressive and all these things. And they were trying to use the fake rape case as to make him look like a bad person, to go ahead and take his property. He's unsafe. He shouldn't even be in the community, kind of. And so then they took our home. Like, we were living there. We were happy. We really thought we were going to get it back. We were going to fight this. You know, he's innocent. This is a joke. We even tried to do like all these things that we could have gotten our cabin back, and they still took it. So, you know, what the vendetta or the goal was. They didn't give Jerry, like, everything was no, and they treated him like a felon, even though he was innocent. Then they carried the case on for 2 years so they could get the tax credit rate for the next year. Whether he sat in jail or whatever, it didn't matter. They wanted that money for the next, and I heard the judge also gets money for the crisis center. And so basically now, and if you need to hear more about the story, I do have websites on Facebook and on Instagram, like the Jerry Cox story. If you just look up Jerry Cox or Mariposa County corruption, you can probably find it. But if you need to know more of the story, if I didn't cover anything, but basically, like, we don't even live together right now. We have a really good, healthy, long distance relationship. And, but because of all this, he has to be at a red tag cabin because people have been breaking in there and just violate, you know, we have animals, like some donkeys there, wild, you know, well, they're not wild, but they graze freely out there, and there's a creek and stuff. So he has to go check on all that stuff. And I'm in another state completely, and we just want this all to end so we can be together, and he deserves it. And people sometimes wonder, like, why, you know, but I feel bad that he even had to tell me. He had to tell me on the first time I met him. He had to tell me this, and he was honest, and I respected that. And I honestly, I looked it up, and it was horrifying. Like, it's really sad what they did to him, and I'm going to be there for him because, well, he's a good guy. So, and this should all be over with soon. We have been getting some good news, so that's good. But it's just the waiting game. You know, he sold everything. He had to bail himself out of prison. It costed him like $50,000. Here, they put guards at his house when they put him in jail for the receivership. The receiver put these meth addict guards at his house, and they stole all his stuff, his four-wheelers, his crossbows. I mean, you talk about unconstitutional. They kicked him out of his home, his hand-built cabins, and had strange meth addicts living there, having their families over, stealing his stuff. Told, made it look like he was an animal abuser. They're like spraying water in the horse's face, the receiver. But what he doesn't realize is there's running creeks everywhere. And spraying the horse looked miserable getting water sprayed in his face. But so the receiver charged him wants to charge him now this amount that he sold the property for, $700,000, and the property is worth like $2 million, but he undersold it to hurry and sell it. He didn't do any of his receivership duties. He broke into Jerry's other cabin that wasn't even part of the receivership that he's taking care of now. They broke into that and they lie about it. They say that Jerry made it look like that. This is how much power these people have. I don't understand. So basically what I'd like to see, because I have 2 sons, and not only do we love the ranch and we deserve to have a nice guy in our lives that can take care of us and protect us, and we can take care of him, and he's calm because I've been there. And we just deserve for it to move on. He had to basically sell everything. So I'm with the right price of gas and stuff. We don't really get to see each other very much. And then, like I said, I have 2 boys. Not only do we miss and love that other ranch, but this could happen to them. And that's why I'm here. It kind of became personal because I saw all my friends who's, their sons. And I even just heard a story. My friend that lived by me, her son's friends with my son, and he got in trouble at school just recently. And luckily there was cameras in the gym so it just became quite personal, and it can happen to anybody. And poor Jerry, he definitely is someone that deserves his justice. He fights for what's right in a good way. He didn't go blow up something, he's going to do it the right way. And he's just cool. That's what blows me away, that they could even get away with saying he was erratic or anything, because it's just plain obvious.
Hey, Krystal, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thank you.
How does this impact you personally?
Well, we can't be together. We're just waiting for everything so he can get his money back. He was well sufficient. He was a good catch. I mean, he still is, but he was he could support a family, and now he can't. They took everything. I mean, everything.
And that's traumatic. And I imagine when you guys were all living together there, right, before the receivership issue, you guys had to leave, which meant, okay, so the boys have to go to a different school now. Right?
Well, they didn't start school, none of that yet, but but yes, for them, I don't want them to go to school in that county.
Yeah.
So I'm here with my mom because they have really good schools. And he has to be there because it's court date after court date, and he can't be hours away. They just keep making court dates, and so he has to be there. And
Does this impact your boys at all?
Well, they have to hear about. I mean, I try not to let them hear anything about some of the details because it's very a 5-year-old. But I mean, it's something talked about in the house, which I blame the false accuser, because that's something that you shouldn't have to be talking about in your household, especially if somebody didn't do anything. And especially 5 years later, 6 years later. And it impacts Simon too. Well, I know Hunter misses the ranch so much. So it definitely impacts Hunter because we love that place. But besides the fact that we have to have a long distance relationship, and I'm just terrified for my boys in the future, if it's he can't be alone with a girl.
I know. And it's changing everything for our men and our boys, right? Now you had mentioned that there were 18 felonies, right? 18. And those were all dropped, right?
All of them. Yeah. I mean, sodomy, kidnap, just some horrific stuff that you don't want in your household, but yet it it kind of has to be, because someone's got to do something about it.
Right.
If you don't mind, let me clarify a few things, because I think some viewers of this video might get a little bit lost in the terminology. Number one, the Jerry Cox case, as Krystal knows, is one that NCFM has been deeply involved with for more years than I can remember. And it is true that Jerry was falsely accused of all these charges. And concurrently, the county of Mariposa was after Jerry's property. Initially, the two things had nothing to do with each other, but the county was able to use the former for the latter. And Jerry's ranch was 437 or 417 acres. And he had a herd of bison. He was raising bison. And he built everything himself. He had a couple pieces of property. One he still has, but the county grabbed the rest of it through a process known as receivership. In other words, they violated Jerry's property for things like the door was crooked or a fence post wasn't straight, things like that. Or he didn't have permits when he didn't have permits. In California, what happens then, after time, you can put it into a legal process called receivership, where the property is turned over to an attorney who in this case stole everything, in my opinion. And with the concurrence of the court, the county of Mariposa, I mean, the whole thing looks so corrupt, it's just, it's hard to explain in a short period of time.
I know.
So
Thank
this
you.
is what Krystal found herself in with Jerry. And if I'm correct, your mother is the ranch mom, right?
Oh no, that's
No?
his best friend's mom.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
somebody owes me a pie. I'm not sure who it is, but I think it's ranch mom. So
No,
you can
she-
pass that on to somebody.
she's not the fondest of me. I don't know why. I don't know. But
Okay. So that, I hope that's a little bit of context of what Krystal is trying to explain, because for the viewer, I think you can readily see how this has impacted her love for Jerry. You know, it's a very confusing set of circumstances, and Jerry is still struggling through them in the court system. And we're hopeful that when he's done, that he will be vindicated in more ways than he's already been vindicated. And he and Krystal and the boys and everybody else can get back to having some normalcy. That's all I wanted to say.
yeah, and like I said, it's been over 5 years, and Jerry and I, or 6 years, and Jerry and I have been together like 3 years. And so it wasn't this, like, we still had the ranch when we got together and stuff like that. So he was really in the middle of the fight. He didn't think that, it could go that way, but they gave him 101, just like the exaggerated 18 felonies. You could
Yeah.
tell they were really out to get him, because it wasn't just like, 17 violations and 5 felonies. It was like they were going for the goal, man, the goal, or whatever you say. They were going heavy, and it's so obvious when you go that heavy on.
Well, they pulled it. We thought they pulled a tremendous amount of illegal acts, and they had their entire bureaucracy and whole herd of legal people in position to basically, in my view, persecute rather than prosecute Jerry. And he's a very strong person to be able to withstand all those things he's been withstanding. And I feel very much for you and your boys and those other people that love you and love Jerry. This is one of the most horrendous situations I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll never be fully over. We'll never stop fighting or giving up for others, but of course we just cannot wait till we don't have to talk about it every day, even though it's you got to do what you got to do, and you got to protect the people you love, and what's right is right.
Oh,
And Marc,
absolutely.
Marc, he put so much work into this, and Jerry's innocence. Marc Angelucci, we don't mention anything else. He was our attorney that helped Jerry, and then he was brutally murdered about a year ago. And we won't talk too much about Marc because it's hard, but
Well, just so a
but he
viewer
was awesome.
know, Marc Angelucci was our vice president, National Coalition for Men, and he was deeply involved with Jerry's case, as were several other attorneys. And it was July 11th of 2020 or 19, I forget now.
20, and he lived right by, he lived 5 minutes from us.
That's right.
At the time, we were 5 minutes away. I mean, we felt so helpless. We were even sending him pictures of our paintings that day, and it's just awful. He was a friend. He was
loved by many.
Oh yeah, he's a good person.
Yeah. Tragic loss. Good man. And reading about the Jerry Cox story when my son was falsely convicted, right, led me to National Coalition for Men. So he's gone through a lot. Marc, yes, with Marc's name in it, absolutely. So Marc is doing amazing work from up above for us now. And
he's listening to this, I can assure you.
Oh yeah, he's probably sitting right here.
He certainly is. He certainly is.
With a beer in one hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
He certainly is. Krystal, you've been so supportive. I mean, you could just as easily have walked away from all of this, but you hung in there because you love him, right? And he loves you. And you've been so supportive, so vocal. What are some of the things, maybe as a final comment, that you could give to our audience that you would like to share with them?
Just watch your sons. Don't ever take anything if someone's acting strange or anything. Just, I don't know, it's really hard after talking about Marc, but when I met Bronson, when you meet him and you meet somebody and you can just tell that they're like a really good person and you want to help them because they have help, but they need that like help in their home. So if anybody else is going through this, just be as supportive as you can be. You know, there's help out there. You just have to stay strong because it's tough and we have to change these laws and it's just tough. But well, it's not like we're super strong people. You wouldn't even be able to tell looking at us because we're so strong, but somebody's got to go through it. Somebody's got to change it because it won't, and it won't change itself. So anybody that's ever been through it or knows anybody, just speak out there. We even went on Dr. Phil, everything, which I didn't mention. We were on Dr. Phil, and you know, they were just shocked about what was going on, and it can happen to anybody, basically, even with the receivership, because they do it to old ladies. They put old ladies out on the street. They have no shame. It's illegal. It's legal stealing, and just be careful. Like, be careful on dating sites, be careful anywhere. I mean, just protect our sons, our fathers, our uncles, everything. And then women too, you know, you gotta be a strong, polite, respectful person, human, you know?
I agree. And the word strong resonates, right? I mean, it is so difficult to be strong, but there's help out there. There's NCFM, Women Against False Accusations, right?
Yes, and I feel better about that, knowing my sons are going out into the world, that like I'm part of this, and because, yeah, I don't mess with my sons. Those are my babies. But yeah, it can happen to the nicest people.
I agree. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Krystal.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our true stories. If you have a story to share about a man in your life, please reach out to us at www.contextualizing www.womenagainstfalseaccusations.ncfm.org. The National Coalition for Men has been advocating for men and the women who love them since 1977. Our NCFM Women's Group offers emotional support and a place to actively work together to raise awareness around false accusations. Remember, you are not alone. Join us to learn more.
Where is our desire for equal opportunity for men and women in society? Did you know that 94% of all work-related deaths and injuries are male? Or that 3 out of 4 suicides and homicides are male? And that men die an average of 6 years earlier than women? And recent studies show men and boys can be victims of family violence more often than women and girls. Yet in spite of this alarming news, there are only 2 commissions in the U.S. created to address these and other serious issues facing our men and boys today. In comparison, there have been over 250 commissions established to help women and girls address serious issues concerning their health and well-being. It's obvious that a federal commission dedicated to the health and status of our men and boys is desperately needed. Please help us, the National Coalition for Men, as we dedicate ourselves to making this ambitious dream a reality. For more information about NCFM, its membership opportunities, or financial support, go to ncfm.org. That's ncfm.org.